week, this channel, Vlogdan Vlogdanovic, turned 1 year old. It had its first birthday. So to celebrate, I thought I'd do one of my intimate strolls with you. Just me and you, out for a stroll. You may remember I did one of these on a lovely summer's evening back around June time. And this will be something similar, but instead of it being a lovely, warm, sunny summer's evening, it's grey, very windy. It's going to ruin the sound to this video. A bit rainy autumn afternoon. But hopefully it will still be nice. And, you know, I'm 1 year old. So 1 year anniversary or 1 year birthday of this channel. I mean, I feel like it's a time to take stock, isn't it? I remember growing up in the late 70s and 80s and then into the 90s until the point where I was classified as an adult when I was 18. I used to like watching American sitcoms, you know, the harmless ones that were sort of made for what I guess today we would call young adults. What were they? Family Ties, Facts of Life, Sky, Mork and Mindy, The Cosby Show, talk about that anymore. You know, all those Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all that stuff, Saved by the Bell. And all of those, what they would do every now and again, once they've been on TV for a long time, sort of as a kind of a cheap filler, they'd have an episode, which I used to really hate, where they would sit around, you think it's a normal episode, and then they'd say stuff like, oh, do you remember that time that funny thing happened? And then you knew it was going to be a clip show, and they'd kind of say stuff, and sit around saying stuff, and then they'd show clips from old episodes. I thought, well, maybe that's one way I could mark my 1 year anniversary of YouTubing. But then I thought, well, what am I going to show? I'll show, you know, I'm going to re-show that time I showed you all what the inside of a Romanian rural toilet looked like. Let's have a look. Yeah, not very nice. I just don't think that's going to work. So instead of sort of showing you clips, like, you know, for example, the time I caught that really big carp.
Biggest
I don't know how big.
Ever.
I thought I'd do what I did last time when I did one of these intimate strolls, and that's just to sort of chat kind of generally just about what I've been thinking about, and maybe that will be some interest to you. The thing I'm thinking about a lot at the moment is, am I living in a simulation? Is this all real? I'll continue that over there. It's an old philosophical conundrum, isn't it? That there's actually nothing that we can do to prove that what I'm experiencing now is not actually my brain sitting in a jar being fed electrical impulses that make my brain think that I'm out here filming this video on a parkland for you, or even that it's your brain in there and you're being fed this stuff about me doing this here now, and none of it's real. I think there was a study done recently, possibly funded by Elon Musk, that suggested that it's sort of a 50% chance that this might all be a simulation, which kind of doesn't surprise me because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think there's a lot of signs that what we're experiencing might not be real. I mean, there's the President of the United States, for example. I mean, I don't know if you've probably seen Back to the Future, wonderful film. There's a bit where he goes back in time to 1955, the main bit, and he tells Doc that the President is Ronald Reagan, and Doc just can't believe it, you know, an actor becoming the President. The idea of Donald Trump becoming President is far more ludicrous than that, and yet we've had to accept it for the last 4 years, haven't we? And then there's the internet itself. I think that might be the biggest giveaway that this might be a simulation. I don't don't know if you've seen it, but there's a really good interview with David Bowie that Jeremy Paxman did in about, I think it was the late 90s. And in it, he says that we have no idea about how the internet is going to affect humanity.
I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable.
I see that interview a lot, gets posted a lot, and that in itself slightly weirds me out. I seem to see it almost at least 2 or 3 times a week. It appears on my timeline on Twitter. But I think the point about it is about the power of the internet and how amazing it is quite interesting, because there's a bit in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy about the Babelfish. The Babelfish was this little yellow fish that is astoundingly useful, and you can just put it in your ear and it will translate any language in the universe. And there's a bit in the book that says that some theologians have used it to prove that God doesn't exist, because God says, I only exist if you have faith. And then they say, but the Babelfish is so astoundingly useful and brilliant that it couldn't possibly have come in any other way other than through some kind of God. Therefore you do exist, therefore you don't, because for you to exist you need faith, but I know you exist, so therefore you don't. And then God thinks, oh no. And I think the line is, he vanishes in a puff of logic. I think it's a similar thing with the internet. The internet is so incredibly big and powerful and amazing and useful and all pervasive in our lives that all it can be is proof that none of this is real. This intimate stroll, unlike the last one, is in another nearby park to me called Brockwell Park. I'm currently what I would describe as being at the back of Brockwell Park. I normally only go kind of over that side, over there somewhere. Don't really come up the back side of the park very much. But I did recently. I had a walk here with my friend Emma, and we walked all around here. And yeah, it was a bit of a revelation, because I found this wonderful bit of artwork up here. I'd like to show it to you. So it's this picture just behind me here. I can't actually tell, I can't get that close, whether it's a photo, large blown up photo, or a painting. But I think it is a photo of an old man in a kitchen, and it's just stuck on the side of a house at the back of the park. I think it's a really fascinating picture. Just the way he's looking at the camera, the sunlight streaming in is really beautiful. He also looks like a bit like my wife's father. My father-in-law died about 8 or 9 years ago now. Looks a little bit like him, which is quite eerie. And I just love the fact that it's just pinned to the side of this house, looking out over Brockwell Park. I can't see any information anywhere about it. I don't know who took it, who the picture is from, if he's someone famous and I should know who he is. It's just there, it's just this nice picture stuck on a house. So there's a fair amount of water, lakes and stuff, and ponds in Brockwell Park, and it's quite an interesting thing. There used to be some small streams here that ran into the River Effra. Now the River Effra was a South London river that now doesn't exist anymore. It's a lost river of London, and it sort of got, I guess, I don't know exactly technically what happened, but it got sort of brought into the sewage system as sewage systems were built around London. So it kind of went underground, essentially. Now, I'm recording this on Halloween. And here's a nice little story, Halloween story for you. At some point, about 100 years ago or so, some people found a coffin floating down the River Thames. And they managed to trace this coffin back to West Norwood Cemetery, which I guess is about a mile or so away from here. And so they took it back to the cemetery, and the people who worked there, the cemeterians, went to the plot of land where it was. It was very strange because the land had not been disturbed at all. So they began to explore the area, and what had happened was that it wasn't that the coffin had been dug up. It was that that land had subsided underneath, and the coffin had dropped down into the underground River Effra that was still flowing, and the Effra took it down into the River Thames. While I was filming that time lapse there, something slightly weird happened. A man in a van was driving around the pathways here, ringing a large bell. I don't know what that was for. I don't know if it's Halloween related, but what I think it is that the park closes half an hour after dusk. Although it's only about 4:30, I think that might be the warning that people are supposed to be leaving the park. So that's about as far as I'm going to get with the chat this week. It's been an interesting one, hasn't it? But before I go, there is one more thing I want to do, because it is this channel's first birthday, and hopefully there's going to be many more. But let's celebrate it now. Well, happy birthday to me then.